And right now, we'd like to welcome you to the Big Story segment. Jamaica had a strong showing at the 2025 World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan, which happened between September 13 and 21 this year. And there were so many high points, so many things to celebrate. Our medal count reached 10, 1 gold, 6 silver, 3 bronze. And there were some top performers, the likes of Tina Clayton, the likes of Oblique Seville, the likes of Kishane Thompson, Sharika Jackson, and we could go on and on and on. This morning we're joined by senior sportscaster and a man who definitely has a lot of information to share about track and field. We have with us Leighton Levy as our guest this morning in the Big Story segment. Good morning, Leighton. Welcome. How are you today, my brother?
I'm not too bad, Richie. How are you doing? Good morning to you and your listeners. It's been last 9 days before, since up to Sunday have been challenging because of the time difference that forced you to be up in
Yes.
extraordinary time, ordinary hours of the day, and of course, long days or short nights. But
That's right.
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
The athletes made it worth it. You know what I did the morning after Oblique Seville had won. I dug up the last interview that we'd had with you, where you spoke about Oblique and you spoke about Kishane, and you even went on to say, I believe, maybe not the exact terminology, but I think you indicated that we should not be surprised if Oblique Seville actually won gold. And I replayed that the morning after he had won gold to show them that you had it down to a T in your analysis. Was that the high point of the Jamaican contingent for you?
Yeah, from a Jamaican standpoint, yes, because I think after 4 years of struggling, after 4 years of doubting Thomas's in terms of Jamaicans feeling that Oblique Seville was never going to be able to fulfill all of the expectations that the country had of him. I think based on what I'd seen during the course of the season leading up to the World Championships, that this was the year that he was going to break through. He looked at the execution of the different phases of his race, the consistency of performances, and just the general sense of confidence that he exuded leading up into the championships. You knew that unless something untoward happened, he was likely to be the winner. And of course, there were some challenges I saw with Kishane Thompson's race format, race model, that made him vulnerable to someone like Oblique Seville, given the fact that he was unable to hold his speed over the last 30 meters much less than Oblique was able to. And I think it panned out exactly the way I thought it would have been.
Oblique was seen mouthing, "Give me my respect," after he had won the 100-meter gold medal. Do you think now that he is going to be getting the respect that he deserves going forward?
Absolutely. I think, and it's not just the respect. I think now that he's broken through that glass ceiling that has held him back for the past 4 years, whether because of inexperience or injury, I think his confidence is at a level now where he's going to get that respect. He's already getting it. But also, what is even more important is that it's going to become more difficult to beat him now, because now that he's proven to himself that he's able to do this. I mean, 9.77 is a personal best for him, down from 9.81. And that makes him one of the fastest Jamaicans of all time. And just behind Kishane Thompson's PB of 9.75. So now he's in a pantheon of the greats, the Usain Bolts, the Asafa Powell, the Johan Blakes, the Nestor Carters. All these guys have gone below 9.8 seconds. So I think when you look at what he's been able to do at these championships, now puts him in that pantheon of greatness. And I think his confidence, and the combination of all of those things, and the fact that he's now able to break through physically, Clemens did mention that he's going to do surgery on his toe, which, because I think he plans to have him run some 200s. And even from experience, if your big toe is not 100%, as we've seen in the case of Shelly and Fraser-Price, you're not going to be at your best, because that big toe takes a lot of force when you're running, especially on a curve. So once he fixes that, I think he's going to be even more dangerous than he was this year.
What are some of the other high points of the championships for you from a Jamaican perspective, Leighton?
Well, there were so many. Let me start with the one that was most emotional for me, and it was Tyler Mason finishing third in the 110-meter hurdles. Of course, Orlando Bennett finishing with the silver medal.
Yeah.
For many reasons. One, you have to look at it where Tyler Mason for the last couple of seasons just missed out on the national championships, making the team, finishing fourth, just behind the people who went on to represent at the global championships, whether the Olympics or the World Championships in Budapest in 2023. And he's been through so much. And remember, he won silver medal at the World Under-20 Championships way back in 2014. Mm-hmm. And many people saw him because of his prodigious talent at the time. Many people saw him as the next big hurdle star. It never happened because injuries and all kinds of challenges held him back significantly. I mean, if I was in his shoes, I would have quit. To see him get onto the national team this year, and look, getting onto the national team was not easy because had it not been for Rashid Broadbell's injury, he may not have finished. He would not have been making that team again for a third consecutive year. But so for him to make the team, go to the World Championships, and not just with a bronze medal, he was the fastest into the semifinal. He was the fastest into the final, and of course, equal that time a brand new personal best of 13:12 that gets him on the podium. I mean, I was moved to tears when he crossed the line, and I realized he was third. Orlando Bennett, for me as well, he's one of those hard-working youngsters. For me, he was at Calabar, not the most talented, but certainly puts in the work, and to see him now, get the rewards for that hard work that he's put in, that was probably one of the most, endearing moments for me at the World Championships. Of course, Tina played 10.76. You can't talk about that enough. She has now literally made that step forward and taken the baton from Shelley Fraser Price, who is retiring from global championships after these championships. And so the baton has been literally and figuratively passed on to the next generation of sprinters. So those were two of the more outstanding moments for me. When you look at the performances overall, I know a lot of Jamaicans probably were disappointed that Jamaica didn't get more than one gold medal. The thing is that when I looked at the numbers leading up to the championships, I didn't see Jamaica getting more than one gold medal either, because while the new talent is coming through, I don't think they're at the Levy as to take on the best of the world. And as I mentioned, Brian Lavelle was outstanding at these championships. His second major championship after the Olympics last year. Yes. And to come in and to perform the way he did, and that a big personal best under the most extreme of pressures. Mm-hmm. The Olympic champion in the final, along with the world champion coming into this race, and of course, people like Kenny Bednarek, who have been consistently fast over 200. To run at 200-meter personal best with these two guys, sandwiched between these two guys, he could have easily have folded and yielded to the moment, but he found it. He found the stuff of champions and held on for 19.64, a big personal best. And of course, as I mentioned the last time I spoke with you, is now the only Jamaican other than Usain Bolt and Johan Blake to go under 19.7 for the 200 meters. And he's only 21 years old. So you have to consider that with his lack of experience and his relatively young age, he's on the verge of doing significant things. I suspect that in another 2 years, he will not only be a medal favorite, but he will be a gold medal favorite. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of talent that the young man possesses. And of course, 9.82 this year. He's made another significant step forward in his young career.
Yes, one of the things I particularly was impressed with was the women's 4x1 meter 4x100 meter relay. Primarily because of the conditions that they had to run in. And they got the baton around, and we got a medal there, and that was a big moment for me as well. But very, very disappointing what happened in the men's equivalent. What were your comments on that?
I've had my own personal views on this, and I see some people, saying that I don't know what I'm talking about. But one of the things that I'm sure I'm talking about is this. And let me just coach it by saying this. I ran 4x1 in high school. I ran it in college. I managed, one of the managers of the Bolts of Lightning team. If you're old enough, you'll remember they were the first club team in Jamaica to break 40 seconds in the 4x1. Right, that scene was, coached by Dennis Johnson at the University of Technology. Back then, it was the College of Arts, Science and Technology.
Yes.
So I have a very deep and nuanced understanding of what is required to find success at the 4x1 at international levels, because there is more than just the practice of the baton changes and the handovers and the receiving and the outgoing runners and the incoming runners. One of the commonalities that I've found during the course of my career is that when you look at the teams that have been successful at the 4x1, so Jamaica specifically, you look at the Usain Bolt era, for example, there was all those years from 2008 until he retired in 2016. That team did not have any mishaps in the 4x1, despite the fact that they had 3 of the 4 fastest men of all the time up to that point. I know why, because they understood each other, they knew each other very well, they had a chemistry, they had a synergy, and they also, most importantly, had a leader in Usain Bolt. Similarly for the women's 4x1, when you heard Tina Clayton talk about the fact that Shelley Fraser-Price gave them a speech before they went on the track and advised them on what to do, how to keep their hands dry because it was raining. Mm-hmm. This is what I think the men's team lack. They don't have a clear leader, 1. 2, they don't have that synergy that Michael Frater, Nesta Carter, Usain Bolt, Asafa Paul, and Johan Blake had back in the day. They are running as individuals and not... Look, let me just explain it that sometime. The fact is this. If you are familiar with your teammate on a relay team, you will be more aware of the nuances, the idiosyncrasies. What is a person likely to do in a particular situation? And mentally, you can make that adjustment to accommodate for their idiosyncrasies, which will then allow for you to have seamless button exchanges. I don't think the men lack that. But for the women, I saw, back to your original point, when you look at what they said Shelley spoke to them about and the fact that she was willing, because it was her decision the decision for her to start was a last-minute situation. The plan was for Shericka Jackson to start, based on my understanding of it. But she was sore from the 200-meter finals. Okay. And so they inserted Shelley at the start, who then gave... My concern was that Melissa Jefferson was going to blow the opening leg apart because of her. She's significantly faster than everybody else. But Shelley actually handed over the baton second. Okay. Behind Great Britain, the United States was third. Mm-hmm. So she gave them a strong start. And not just a strong start, they wanted to do it for her as well, just like they wanted to do it for Usain Bolt, because those were the leaders of those teams, people who had that ability to pull the team together under one concept, one mindset of how you're going to execute this relay. So the women did extremely well, and the fact is that had it not been one mishap between Tina and Tina Clayton, which is surprising, knowing how well those sisters knew each other. The exchange between them was not as smooth as they would have liked, and I think that cost us very valuable fractions that allowed for Sha'Carri Richardson to get away from the anchor. But Johnny Smith ran her down to the very line, 41.75 to 41.79, tells you how close that was. Yeah. So the women were able to do it well, the men were. I think the men need to spend some more time together, not just for relay practice, but to get to know each other, get to spend some time with them, build a relationship, build a kind of a commonality in some of this understanding of each other and who they are and the things that trigger them, the things that they respond positively to, the things that they respond negatively to. And once they get to understand each other, I think this team has the potential, especially if they are able to include Brian Lavelle, that potentially can challenge Jamaica's world record of 36.84 back in 2012.
I agree with you on that. Janelle Smith, she ran down Sha'Carri Richardson. She has an attitude that I really like. What can you tell us about her?
Look, Janelle Smith was an outstanding woman. She and Shauna Hills were the two of the dominant female athletes for the women's girls team back about 10 years ago now. Talented young lady, but then she had an unfortunate accident. I remember she was a member of Jamaica's team that won gold in Doha in 2019 at the World Championships. She, Natalia White, Shelley Fraser-Price, and Shericka Jackson brought that gold medal home back then. But in 2020, she had a motor vehicle accident in the United States that hurt her back. And because of that back injury, she had hamstring injuries and she had quad injuries. When she came back to Jamaica in 2022, she had a sole shoulder injury and some other injuries.
Leighton, are you there? Seems like we lost him. All right, little technical situation there. I'm going to see if I can do a quick redial and see whether or not we can reconnect with Leighton Levy as we're doing a comprehensive review of the World Championships recently staged in Japan. And we are, in fact, dialing as we speak. I think we now have Leighton back with us. Leighton, are you there?
1 8 7 6.
Oh no, it's going to a voice mail or something. That's unfortunate. We were really enjoying this conversation, and there are a couple of other points that we also wanted to make. Let me see if I do have Leighton now. Leighton?
Yeah, I don't know what happened a while ago.
Yes,
the call dropped for some reason.
Yes, something happened, but we're back with you. Yes.
Yeah, so basically, what we saw from Jenny Smith, that outstanding ankle leg, is just another example of the talent that she possesses. I think once she's able to stay healthy, I think we'll see a better Jenny Smith next season. If she can steer clear of the injuries that have held her back for the past 4 or 5 years, because she's 29 now. I think when she steps on the track for 2026, I think we'll see a Johnny Smith break 11 seconds for the first time on her in an individual capacity. And I think she'll be a very valuable member of Jamaica's relay teams going forward, because I think she's that much talented as a young athlete who's always willing to give her all for Jamaica. And again, this was another example of her doing that in Tokyo.
800 meter, we made a mark there big time. We're also doing well in the field events. Your comments on our future in those areas?
I think Jamaica is becoming a growing force in the field events. Unfortunately for Ralford Mullings, it didn't turn out well for him. I think it was a matter of the ring. It wasn't comfortable throwing in the ring that they were throwing on in Tokyo. That, I think, is an aberration, because he's thrown 72.01 this year, which was the 4th best throw in the world, and a new national record for Jamaica, breaking a record of 70.78 by Frederick Dickel back in 2019 or 2018. So I think that was just a mishap for him. Tajay Gale getting silver in the long jump was a return to the athletes, or close to the athlete that won gold in 2019 in Doha, 8.69 meters, which is a national record, and one of the best 10 jumps ever in history. He's had his issues with knee injuries that have held him back over the last few years. But he's changed coaches last year to Kerry D. Ricketts, leaving from MVP. And I think it's beginning to bear fruit. And we saw that in Doha. When you look at what has happened with the 800s with Nabaski Anderson. Look, 1977, the national record, Seymour Newman set the national record of 1:45.30. By today's standards, it's a mediocre time. But Nabaski Anderson broke that record a couple of years ago and gradually took it down to 1:44.40, I think it was. And then Tyrese Taylor broke that national record and became the first Jamaican to run on the 1:44 for the 800. That was just about a month ago now. And then Nabaski Anderson broke back the record in the semifinals and then took it down to an amazing 1:42.76 in the final, becoming the first Jamaican man to run that fast on the 1:43, which puts him now into an elite category of 800-meter runners. The importance of that for me and for those who are considering running the event is just the fact that we are a talented nation. Way back in the day, I also won silver at the Olympic Games in 1948 for the 800 meters. We haven't, other than Seymour Newman and probably people like Nevermind, Jamaica has not had many talented 800-meter runners. We've had some outstanding ones from a Jamaican perspective, but from a global perspective, we haven't had that many. Nabaski Anderson and Tyrese still have now taken that to that elite level. And I think once he begins to continue to improve the way he has for the last year and a half, I think he has the potential to go faster. If he does, I think he'll probably be the trailblazer for a new wave of talent coming out of Jamaica, because I spoke to Simon Newman a few years ago when he was coaching at Homewood Technical High School, and he said one of the challenges with the 800 in Jamaica is that a lot of kids are not willing to put in the mile. You have to be ready to run 40, 50 miles a week for you to be as good as Nabaski is and the best 800-meter runners in the world. Should he find himself on a podium at a global championships in the next few years, which I think is very possible based on what we saw, I think a lot of youngsters will be inspired to follow his suit, and of course, make Jamaica just add that additional layer to Jamaica's the talent pool coming out of Jamaica. Outstanding performances all around, and I think we'll see a lot more from all of those athletes, including Ralford Mullins, Tajay Gale, Nikolai Williams, and others who are now taking on the field events in a much more earnest way. And I think Jamaica's the depth of talent will begin to expand in terms of Jamaica representation of Jamaica.
I want to say big ups to Sharika Jackson. I want to say big ups to the women's 4x400 meter relay team that came through and got us a medal as well. That was impressive now, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the 4x4 women have been coming through, Stacey Ann Williams and Nikisha Price, Dejanay Oakley. All of these ladies have come through the U.S. collegiate system and are now they're training in the United States, where I think the coaching on the 400 meters is much better than is available here in Jamaica. And I think they're benefiting from it now. And I think this is a young enough team so that in the next, I don't think we'll ever be able to challenge for a gold medal at these championships because of just the depth that the U.S. possesses, especially with Sidney McLaughlin doing extraordinary things now, and just making it almost impossible for Jamaica to challenge at that level. But I think Jamaica will be a force to reckon with for the women's 4x4. And when you look at the fact that Nikisha Price is a year out of college, Stacey Ann Williams is like 3 years out of college, and Dejanay Oakley is still in college. She has a final year at the University of Georgia. I think Jamaica's a nice core of women. The thing that impressed me most about it was that they ran 3:22.77, I think it was, in the heats. And you thought, okay, they were good enough for silver. But not only did they win the silver in the final, they ran at 3 seconds faster almost in the final, which tells you that they were ready to perform, and they met the moment with those performances. I think they did extremely well.
Absolutely.
You mentioned what was the other thing you mentioned? You mentioned a bronze medal with...
I mentioned Sharika.
Sharika Jackson, yes. Look, a lot of people had an expectation of Sharika Jackson this year. I think I mentioned it to you before, that Sharika was not... Sharika Jackson 2025 was not the Sharika Jackson that we saw in 2023. She, as you know, she missed the Olympics last year in terms of, she was there, but she was unable to perform because she was injured.
Yes.
Those injuries were significant enough for her to have taken a step back in the levels of performance. Hamstring injuries and quad injuries the last season, and she was hurt just before the national championships as well. So she was never close to the athlete that we saw 2 years ago. So for her to come through now and win a bronze medal, which is what I expected her to win at the championship, because I thought that Melissa Jefferson was going to be too difficult to beat, and of course Julian Alfred from St. Lucia, who missed the 200-meter finals because she picked up an injury in 100-meter finals. So for her to end up on the pole, I thought she would have ended up with a silver medal, but I am almost certain she had an injury, with a slight or otherwise, in the 200-meter finals, because if you remember, she was clear second, and then she significantly slowed down, and Amy Hunt from the United States passed her, and then Olivia Battle from the United States almost caught her, and which is one of the reasons why I felt that she missed the 4x1 final as well. So for her to end up on the podium, notwithstanding all these physical challenges, is in of itself a victory for Sharika Jackson, because at least she comes away from the championships with something which is much different from what happened in Paris last year. And I hope for her that she'll be able to get back to the level of fitness. I will see her get back close to what she was in 2023.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult because she's past 30 years old now, and there's a lot of wear and tear on her body, because she's run so well over the past almost decade now, 400, 200, and 100s, that she can get back to her best, but her best won't be 21:41 anymore. It won't be. I don't think it'll be 10:65 anymore.
Okay.
But she'll get back to levels where she'll be more competitive and be more consistent as a podium contender for as long as she continues to compete. Because I suspect that she won't go much longer beyond next year in terms of her professional career. People think that what Shelley did at 38 not everybody is able to do that. Not everybody is able to be a Bernie Naughty who run for 2 decades and run consistently well for 2 decades. Those occurrences are rare. Mm-hmm. So what Sherika Jackson has produced for Jamaica so far has been exemplary, and she's the only female sprinter to win medals at the 100, 200, and 400 at the global level. That takes some doing. That puts her in a pantheon of one. And I think, it does speak to her greatness in terms of her representation of Jamaica.
Definitely. In closing, we're extending a little bit just to speak a little bit about Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce, one of our greatest sprinters ever. What can we say? And how do you see her from here on? What do you see in the future for her?
Well, Shelly, I get this feeling that Shelly, despite the fact that this is her last global championship, something that she's made clear from as early as in June, when the Nike had that event for her at AC Hotel when she announced her retirement for this year. Mm-hmm. I think we'll see her on the track again next year, but beyond that, I'm not sure. What I do know is that she's going to spend more time now focusing on her business and her foundation and doing more great things. I know she and Nike have this, what I believe to be a lifetime agreement, where she's going to be doing a lot of work on the ground here in Jamaica. One of the first things that she's going to be doing is ensuring that all the kids that run at primary school championships won't be running barefoot. That's something that she announced as well at that event at the AC Hotel in June. And I think she's going to do a lot more work now with her foundation, the Pocket Rocket Foundation, offering scholarships to those kids in need, student athletes in need, at the high school and college level in Jamaica. And I think, focusing more on her businesses. She, a sports psychologist, described Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce as a seeker. As soon as she achieves one of her goals, her latest goal, she moves on to the next one. She's never truly satisfied. It's one of the reasons why I think she carried over from last year, because she wanted to leave on her own terms, and she now leaves on her own terms, bookending her extraordinary career, starting with a silver medal in the 4x1 in 2007. Mm-hmm. So a silver medal here at the end of her career, yes. The 4x1 silver. And I think, look, she's the greatest sprinter of all, female sprinter of all time. The things that she's done, the first that she's accomplished, that will never be broken. You can never not be first anymore. Nobody can surpass you in that respect. I think she's the greatest sprinter of all time, and her longevity, the quality of performances over a 18-year career, just speaks to the quality and the excellence that she's managed to produce year in, year out, even with injury. And except for those 2 years when she was out with having her child and recovering to come back to competition, Shelly Ann Fraser-Pryce has only missed a global final once, and that was last year in Paris. She's an extraordinary athlete, an extraordinary human being, and her record speaks for itself. The accomplishments, I think, is her resume is just, her credentials are better than any other female athlete that has ever lived. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, she's the greatest of all time.
Absolutely. We agree with you on that. Leighton, I thank you so much. Somebody said, who knows, she might be even going on to expand her family. And even if that is the case, we want to commend her. She has served us well, and we are so proud of her. And all of our athletes, for that matter, especially those who represented us this year at the World Champs. Leighton, thanks for that comprehensive overview, and we'll definitely stay in touch. Have a good day, bro.
Yes, please, man. Enjoy and have a good day to you and your listeners as well.
All right. Thank you so